Now, welcome back to the 3 Hour News Show with us. See today, you're now watching our signature segment, See the Stories. So, by the way, why has the weather been so hot lately?
It has been really hot lately. So, apart from the heat wave, higher temperatures due to the drastic climate crisis has also worsened conditions. Now, Indonesia, along with 195 other countries, now play an active role in efforts to reduce the rate of global warming. Let's take a look.
Climate change can cause various negative impacts such as sea level rise, more frequent and extreme natural disasters, and health effects on humans and animals. Therefore, it is necessary to take action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and address the impacts of climate change to minimize its negative effects. The use of fossil fuels such as oil, natural gas, and coal is dwindling and also produce carbon emissions that cause climate change. After the establishment of Paris Agreement in 2015, every participating country is required to set their climate commitments to keep the temperature rise between 1.5 to 2 degrees by 2100. The more countries switch to renewable energy and reduce the use of fossil energy, the more likely it is to create a cleaner and healthier environment for future generations. The more countries switch to renewable energy and reduce the use of fossil energy, the more likely it is to create a cleaner and healthier environment for future generations.
Now, of course, if we want to fight climate change, it means we also have the knowledge necessary. Why is this so relevant to us in order for us to be able to be convinced that it is something very, very important? And to learn more, we now have with us environmental NGO Madani Berkelanjutan Foundation and its Executive Director, Nadia Hadad, to get to know the answers better. So, Nadia, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. Thank you so much. We've heard that, you've had involvements and talks in last year's G20, and you were also very active in making sure that our voices are being heard at COP events. So thank you for joining us.
Yes, happy to be here.
So we want to learn more. We've been experiencing extreme heat lately, and it's not just Indonesia, but our neighboring countries. And extreme weather has been going haywire in places that has never happened before. So what is happening with the weather? Why is it so hot, and why is it changing? Well, we know it's climate change, but if it really is climate change, how is that contribution by climate change?
It is it's the effect of climate change. I mean, we have been experiencing weather change, or maybe some seasons is hotter than the others, but then it is really now maybe in the past 2-3 years, you will see more, we have seen more floods going on, or extreme weather, not just in Indonesia, but in other countries. And that is really happening because of climate change. And that is because of our activity, human activity, that is a bit, that is causing all these damages is more severe than before, and it can get worse if we don't do anything about it.
So you can say that human activities trigger the higher temperatures. What else other than human activities?
Or what human activities?
Or
what human activities are actually contributing to make
examples.
it worse?
Well, it's a long story. We are, because of civilization, it goes back to, if I may, go back to the 1800s, maybe, when the Industrial Revolution, where before humans only used like the activities in the form of agriculture, and we only used our hands to use that. But then there's the Industrial Revolution, when we started digging minerals like coal and oil and all that to help make to help the industry to make new machines, and that can create effectivity, yes, and increase production by, it's like there's this exponential growth of production because of that. And it helps growing the economy, it helps our lives, but then population also grows, right? And then we became more and more, we have to consume more. Because things are being produced more, and then we consume more as well, and all that economic activity, and then the growing population and all that comes together and then creates this mass of economic activity that is harming the climate, because our natural resources is not infinite.
That's right.
It's a finite planet. We have, yes, we have a big planet, and we have abundant natural resources, but there's a limit to it. So if we keep extracting everything, we keep cutting down trees, we keep extracting oil, minerals, and others, and then it also emits what we call the greenhouse emissions. And that causes climate change, so that when greenhouse emissions is emits and it's too much there and it's being trapped, it's like this
trapped
giant
in the atmosphere.
This giant blanket over our planet. It's like, I like the analogy of being trapped in a car with no AC, with no air conditioning, in a very hot weather. Well, that's what it feels like. It's like that. You're trapped, and so you're feeling the heat. It's getting hotter and hotter, so that's what we're experiencing right now.
So that's certainly very interesting. I mean, it's very interesting to see about the history, right? For the sake of growth of people, our populations are so big now, and things have become perhaps, we've accelerated things that perhaps in the natural way wouldn't have accelerated so fast. But what happens if temperatures continuously rise? Because we've seen some of the effects. Sometimes people don't understand, how does the temperature rise contribute to flooding? I mean, we know drought is obviously temperature rising, but like flooding, more rain perhaps. So how does that particular thing change weather patterns?
Well, yeah, the effect is because of the carbon emissions, and that is causing the temperature of the earth has risen. So since the Industrial Revolution, since the 1800s, until now, maybe our earth, our planet, the temperature has risen around 1.1 degrees, which is, it doesn't seem very much, but it does make a huge effect to our planet. It does make a huge effect to the changing climate. You can see the evidence where we can now no longer predict the seasons of...
The 4 seasons.
Or in Indonesia, we only have two seasons, right?
Yeah.
Like the raining seasons and
the dry seasons.
Dry seasons. And right now it's like last year's like all year long is
dry.
The dry season. But right now we're entering maybe, last year it's like the rainy season. It's like in the last 2-3 years, it's quite rainy. It's quite the wet seasons. It's La Nina. And now we're entering the El Nino season, which is hotter. That's why we're experiencing heat waves and all that. And it can get pretty bad, and you can be, if we don't stop this, just that 1.1% can already cause all these floods going on, the changing, the system, the rhythm of the
weather cycle.
The weather cycle, the climate, and well, we're experiencing extreme weather, and so we all. That's why we have this international meetings like with the members of the UNFCCC. We make pledges. Governments make pledges to make efforts, serious efforts to stop the temperature from rising. So far, we're at maybe 1.1%, and it says that we cannot go beyond 1.5% by 2030, because if not, then there will be really
Severe consequences.
Severe consequences.
I mean, at now 1.1, we're already seeing the North Pole melting, which means that the water temperatures are also rising. If the ground temperature is rising, the water temperature will rise. So it's certainly very interesting. These small things that is changing the entire system means that us human beings will be directly affected by it.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, even lately, I feel like my AC doesn't work at home because
Or
it's
as
so
well.
hot.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's so
know,
hot
right?
outside, right? It's like during the day, I'm like, do I even have my AC on?
And
But-
we're in Indonesia. There
Yeah.
are some countries, like in India or other parts of the world, where
Even worse,
it's
right?
like even worse. It's like 40 degrees something.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? It's like-
Indonesia is like in the low point
Yes.
of it. We're so lucky here.
yes, and
We're
it
so
can
lucky
be
here.
really damaging to the human body. People doesn't realize that, but it can be. People die because of that. So.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned the government. So the government is involved in the effort for addressing this issue.
Yes, because changing the way the economy works,
Yeah.
the system works, the way we do things, the way we consume things, it really depends on government's regulations.
That's right, yeah.
Yes. And how countries is implementing their regulations. So the role of governments here is very, very critical and very important.
Yeah.
So, including, that's why there's the conference of parties every year
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
This last year we have G20 here, but then there's also a COP20 in Egypt.
Yep.
And there, the heads of the governments make decisions, important decisions, supposedly, on how to commit to their, how they will lower emission in each country. So every country has actually pledged their own commitments through the so-called, there's the document called the NDC, the Nationally Determined Contributions, where every country sets how much percent of emission needs to be reduced in each country. Indonesia also have that.
The
NDC.
2060 goal. Is that
That's the zero.
the zero emission goal by
there-
2060?
Yes, the zero emission goal by 2060 or before, hopefully before.
Amen.
Yes, but there is this commitment where we pledge that we need to reduce our carbon emission by 2030. There's this 2030 also commitments through the NDC. So the NDC is using the 2030 threshold. So Indonesia is committed to, first it was like 20% until 29% until 41%, but now through the last year we have this enhanced NDC where we renew our commitment and enhance our commitment to a higher goal, and that is good. But we need to fulfill that commitment because we're already committed to it.
Yeah.
And each country, other countries as well. So that's the role where government needs to ensure that each sectors, Indonesia most contributing sectors are from right now is from the forest and land use sectors. We have, as you know, that we are a country where has the 3 largest rainforests
That's right.
in the world. So yes, the whole world is depending also in Indonesia to keep the forest cover. But also, but in the long run, also the energy sector is also growing, and it will also contribute a great deal to the emissions from Indonesia, from this country.
Well, it certainly is very interesting because if we're talking about progress, we've heard of possible policies that the government are considering, you know, carbon financing, blue financing as well, blue industry financing, yeah. Blue carbon financing, and energy transition is one of the most talked about, policy that may involve the most people. So according to you, how is the progress by the government doing? I mean, they're doing everything they can to ease the transition for people in regards to changing cars to electric vehicles, right? And also raising awareness in terms of consequences of, you know, unsustainable practices. So how do you think our government is doing in terms of the efforts?
There's so many things need to be done. Not just, the talk right now is on the energy sector because that's more connected with us in the urban area. So that's connected to our behavior, how we live around in the urban area. But now still in Indonesia, the greatest contributor is from the forest and land use sector.
I see.
Yeah. The use of land. So if you convert the a forest area into an agriculture area, that also creates emissions, right?
Yeah.
Or even worse, if you convert a forest area into a mining area, that is also it can cause a great emission to rise. So the combination as well on how we can now manage or preserve the existing forest, because forest is carbon sink.
Yeah.
That's the function, right?
Yeah.
And right now it's like still like right now it's like all over the planet, all over the world. It's like forest is still the greatest carbon sinks, like 60% for carbon emissions. So it can absorb all the carbon. So, but if you open more lands, that means the area where the carbon can sink is
become less.
Yeah, become less. So, but then while we're also doing that, we need to move towards the greener activities for energy use. Yeah. So it's like that's why we are transitioning from fossil fuel energy, the use of coal, the use of oil and all that, into a greener renewable energies that can be renewables like solar or wind. Those are the most, maybe the two most costly effective as well, and affordable, although it's still quite expensive maybe, but still we need to move towards that. It needs to be, there needs to be incentives. So all the policies, all the efforts also, and also all the industry needs to head towards those greener activities, the greener economy, where the system must change. We need to move forward from the usual practice where we're just still extracting minerals and mines the dirty energy, dirty fossil fuel, into a cleaner energy.
Right. I'm learning so much from Nadia. No, but anyway, we still have a few more questions later on, so don't go anywhere just yet. And for those of you at home or wherever you are, Nadia will still be with us, and see the stories will continue after the break. So don't go anywhere.